All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Breakfast Club. This is over our 11th installment since the stay-at-home orders due to COVID-19. My name is Marcus Coleman. I'm a Syracuse alum, as well as a four-time Gen Now Retreat alumni. I'm also on the Daily Advisory Board, focused on business development. This Breakfast Club is also something special because this is our first installment of our new series on career pivot. From our prior breakfast clubs and culture chat, we heard from a lot of people that due to COVID-19, they lost their job, and also they're just self-reflecting on their career and if they actually generate any happiness that they wanted. As a result, just responding back from our participants once, we are starting off a career pivot, and the career pivot installment is starting off with Derrell Smith. He's a Syracuse alum, a former NFL player, as well as a serial entrepreneur. I'm going to pass it over to Jesse to introduce him. Jesse?
Awesome. Thank you, Marcus. So for those of you that don't know me, because it looks like there's a few new faces, my name is Jesse Knoll, and I am a manager of custom content and experiences at Wavemaker, which is an advertising agency in New York City. I'm currently calling in from rainy Brooklyn, New York, and I'm really excited to be here today. But Derrell, thank you so much for joining us. I know 7 a.m. is bright and early for a great lively discussion, but really glad to have you here. You know, Marcus definitely gave a quick overview of who you are, but I would love to kind of just pass it over to you to talk about your story of going from the NFL to the world of advertising to being an entrepreneur.
Early birds get the worms. Everybody gonna get these worms today. I want to appreciate y'all for having me on. And this is not too early at all. I'm usually up before this on the bike riding around Brooklyn somewhere by now. So I appreciate y'all. And yeah, so my story, I played at Syracuse. I was a 3-year starter, middle linebacker. I was a dual major in IT marketing undergrad, and I started in advertising my senior year in Newhouse. And then I had the opportunity to play in the NFL. One season and some change. My second year with the Texans. Woof, woof. My second year with the Texans, I was injured in practice, and career was cut short, and so I went back to Syracuse to finish up my master's degree. Only had 3 months left because in the off season I would go back, finish up. And so after the NFL, finished up grad school, moved to New York City, worked in advertising for 4 years. And along the way, I would cook for my teammates. I was a producer, and I would cook for my team if I needed them to stay late or whatever, to butter them up, make them work harder sometimes. And one day my boss came in like, hey, there's a meatball competition happening. Your meatballs are amazing. You should enter. Long story short, I entered the meatball competition and I won. I started meatballs when I was in grad school. I developed this sauce called the OG sauce. And the OG sauce, I would explain it as a sweet and spicy vodka-less vodka sauce. That's the best way to explain it. Super creamy, just delicious. And won the meatball competition with this sauce. And in New York, we have a open air food market called Smorgasburg. And Smorgasburg is the most popular thing in New York. And one day I came home after work and just decided to email them. And I was creative with it. I was like, look, I want to be a pop-up space. Our company name is 99 Meatballs. It wasn't 99 East, it wasn't Amazeballs, then it was 99 Meatballs. And it was like, I want to come and serve 99 meatballs and leave, because I want to be a pop-up within a pop-up space. And emailed them this creative idea. They didn't like the idea, but they were like, yo, we appreciate you. So come in, we'll do a tasting. Got in a tasting, did well. I'm in Smorgasburg. I'm working 5 days a week. And on Fridays, I would have to get up 5 a.m., go from Washington Heights to Brooklyn on a train, downtown Brooklyn, to where my friend worked at a Hertz. I would rent a minivan, come back uptown, wait in line for the street sweeper to sweep the streets. And then I would pick up bread from Eli's Bread, which is crazy expensive on the east side, ride up to Washington Heights, wait to park. Then I would have deliveries from Fairway Grocery, which is a grocery store. And basically I would cook all day while I worked remotely on Fridays, every single Friday for 8 weeks. And after Smorgasburg was done, I got out of Smorgasburg because I couldn't do both anymore. I was like, you know what, this is ridiculous. We would sell out each week at Smorgasburg, but I just couldn't do it anymore. And by now, I'd gotten the LLC. We got our EIN number. And so the business was legitimate. And I still had my job in advertising. And a couple weeks after I got out of Smorgasburg, they reached out like, look, Verizon just took a bunch of money from the company and your department is being let go. But we'll keep you here and put you in another department. And if it doesn't work, then like we don't have a job. And I was like, yeah, I appreciate the honesty. And I'll stick it out. And the first day I got on that team, I knew I wouldn't stay. I just knew I wouldn't fit. And so I made up my mind right then and there. And I said, you know what, like I'm just gonna work. I'm gonna come to work here and work on my own stuff. And I think that with entrepreneurship, and this was 4 years ago, so I've been doing this 4 years. With entrepreneurship, is not one thing. Like that wasn't the one thing that made me become an entrepreneur. It was a collection of things. So November of 2016, when I first started the meatball company, there were 3 killings of Black people in America, and I'll never forget. And I remember going to work, and the advertising space it's not a Black space. Like you don't really come to work, you don't see people who look like you. And so I would come to work, and I couldn't talk to anybody because to everyone else around me, the world was okay. But then as soon as I left the office, I was in danger. Like my fiance would call me like, hey, Rel, be safe tonight. My mom, we on the phone that night, like, hey, what's going on up there? I heard this is happening. A cop got shot. And so I was just angry. And I remember coming home from work one day and Public Enemy came on. Public Enemy has this song called Fight the Power. And in the intro of the song, there's a guy called Thomas Todd who's speaking. And he says, our best trained, best prepared, best equipped, best educated troops refuse to fight. And it's like they'd rather switch than fight. And that was the day that I applied to Smorgasburg. I got the LLC.
Awesome.
In order to serve food, you have to have a license. So I started this license, and I just say, you know what, like this is God speaking to me through a song. Like, yo, you got everything. You got your resources. You got a Newhouse degree. You have alumni behind you. Your family's behind you. Your fiance's behind you. And the night that I left my job, I remember I called my mom first, and I told her like, look, I was let go from my job, but I'm gonna try meatballs full time. And I remember we were on the phone for about an hour, and I feel like I was the only one who talked. And I just explained to her like, look, I've never failed at anything in my life, and this won't be different. And hung up with her, and then I called my girlfriend, who's my fiance at the time, or my girlfriend at the time, who's my fiance now. And I told her the same thing, like, look, it's gonna be it's gonna be different, but we're gonna make it. And here we are 4 years later. That was a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
No, but that was a great story. I think, having the context of just kind of your life in the NFL, how that kind of changed, how you went into advertising. And, I find it so interesting that you brought up the topic of just kind of diversity in the ad industry, because it's so true. It is, looking at my colleagues, like it's very white, and it's something that I think, at least my company, I can't speak for the entire industry, is trying to change. But I think that's really powerful that you kind of looked around and you were like, you know what, this isn't a fit for me, and I want to go do something with my life. And you took life by the horns, and you had the confidence to say, you know what, I'm going to take that jump, and I'm going to go do something on my own and really make something incredible. And 4 years later, you're kicking ass. So that's awesome. I think that's actually a great follow-up question, because taking the jump and leap into starting your own business takes a lot of confidence. What really kind of gave you that confidence to jump into starting a business, a culinary business? And also, I guess, what gives you confidence to reach out to companies like Smorgasburg and kind of, you know, put yourself out there in such a unique way?
I'm a hustler, man. I'm a, I'm a hustler. But on the flip side of that, I also had a really good product. And I knew that my product was so good that it could be in Smorgasburg. Like, I've gone to Smorgasburg and I've tasted the food there. And I just did research. Like, I went around Smorgasburg, I tasted their food. I went to other meatball places, tasted their meatballs, and I was like, you know what, mine are better than every single thing that I've had. And with that knowledge, like, I didn't have a choice. That was the other piece. Like, I got let go from my job, so
Yeah.
I had to do all these things. Now with Smorgasburg, that was just, I had a friend of mine who had gotten into Smorgasburg, and from my job, like, he left the job to be in Smorgasburg, and so I called him up like, hey, how'd you do it? What was your angle? And he was like, yo, I got in here. Just be creative with it, be confident. And yeah, we got into Smorgasburg, but the confidence stems from football. Like, football, I mean, I learned um, I learned how to move like professionals move. And so when you play college football at the D1 levels, especially, or you play um, NFL football, the confidence that you have to have is ridiculous, just because you dealing with the best of the best. And when it comes to building confidence, it's just the work that you put in. Like, I've been making these meatballs for years by now, since I left grad school. And then when I won the meatball competition, I knew that people liked it. I just had to get it in more mouths. And so the confidence was really in the product. I knew I had a really good product, and all I needed to do was have more people try it. And yeah, that was the confidence piece. I just had a really good product.
That's awesome. So really, NFL kind of gave you just that drive and that confidence. What did you learn, and what did you take away from the advertising industry that helped with this career pivot?
The way I think about things is totally different, I would say, than a lot of people that I've come across, either whether they're entrepreneurs, whether they're in different fields. But with food, I don't see it as food. Like, I have a mission-based company. Like, my company is not based on money, it's not based on sales, it's based on a mission. And going back to that song, um, the song Public Enemy song, Fight the Power, that intro is basically my mission. Like, I have all of the tools, and if I see something wrong, my job is to fix it. And so our mission is to spread love through food, experiences, and community. There's nothing in there about me selling meatballs to anybody. You know what I mean? Like, my mission is to do exactly that. And because of that, I'm able to be nimble enough to not just do food. Like, I don't have to do food, because we've set up our, and I'll go back to this piece, like how we set up the business. But my mission isn't to sell anybody any food. My mission is to change a day. Like, when people come up to our meatball stand, whether it's at Smorgasburg, whether we're doing catering, I greet them with a smile. I ask everyone how their day is, and customer service is at the forefront, because my mission is to spread love. And my product is good enough, so when you taste it, you taste the love. And so everything about it, that's what I learned from advertising, how to build a brand. A brand is everything about it. It ain't just the food, how it tastes. It ain't, there's none of that. It's all of it. It's how you dress
Yeah.
when people approach you. It's the way you speak to them. It's the way you carry yourself. It's the confidence you have in your food, the way you present it. Like, all of that is encompassed in the brand. And that was the first thing that I focused on when I came from advertising, because I knew that people are the ones who make your brand. Like, my the people, after they leave my stand, they make my brand, because then they go tell somebody else about it. And so if you focus on something other than just the food, that's how you build the brand. And I knew that. Most people that in the food world, they come in like, oh, like I saw this cool thing and I want to make this. Not all people, but a good amount of people I've met come in with this. Like, oh, I saw this cool thing in Japan and I saw it on BuzzFeed and I want to make it because I want to make hella money. It don't work like that, man. If you want to be in this for the long haul, you really got to love it. And you got to have a mission that's solid and based on a good foundation, because if not, you're going to crumble.
That is so true. I mean, you talking about that just now reminded me of a book called Start With Why by Simon Sinek.
Oh, yeah, I read that.
And your why statement is so good. And, you know, the whole purpose of that book is talking about just like start with why, and like your why statement can't be tied into your product, and yours is not tied into your product, and it's going to allow you to just innovate. And if you feel like pivoting again to do something new, like 5 more years down the line, that you have the ability to do that, which is absolutely incredible.
Thank you.
One of the things that I really liked in our kind of, you know, one of our planning discussions leading into this was your use of content. And as a content marketer myself, I'm just fascinated by that story. But I would love to kind of have you talk a little bit more about kind of your views on content and marketing yourself, because, you know, the best way to get your brand out there is to talk about yourself. So I would love to kind of hear a discussion about kind of your partnership with Tastemade. And I know that you've worked with other brands like Disney and Subway and a whole list of others. So I would love to kind of hear about what that experience was like for those and kind of what it's done to help transform your business.
You know, it's cool. I was extremely blessed. I was very blessed when I first started, because with food, a Syracuse grad was actually the person who reached out to me to get into the catering service I used. And then when I was making the menu, got into the catering, when I got into Smorgasburg, Bed Bath Beyond had just opened a location in Brooklyn that had a kitchen. And they were doing these cooking events to introduce people to the store. It's like a welcome to the store, and also to help sell their products in the store. And so they went on Smorgasburg's website, looked up different vendors at Smorgasburg, then came to Smorgasburg, saw my stand, and reached out to me after, like, hey, we're doing our opening for this location. Would you like to come in and present? We film it, and there's an audience. So I said, sure, like I could do that. And they liked me so much when I did it that a few months later, their resident chef retired, and they asked me to become their resident chef. And so now, and this is like, this is how it works. Like, if you're not a religious person before you begin entrepreneurship, once you become an entrepreneur, you really realize the existence of something else. For me, it's God, whatever, whoever you believe. There's something that helps you along the way, and that is the only way you make it. If you do what you're supposed to do, there's something else that helps you. All right, so I'll start with that. But this is how it happened. Bed Bath Beyond reached out to me. I became their resident chef. Each week I would go in there and we would film content. And I'd never filmed content in my life before this. And so I was able to practice in front of a live audience and a camera, which is totally different than what you see on TV. The benefit of content and organized content or scripted content is that you can have cuts. Like, there are opportunities to say, like, oh, I don't like that, let's go back and reshoot that. When you're shooting on film in front of a live audience and you're making food that they have to eat right after you make it, it's a totally different experience than what you see on TV. Because with TV, the chefs don't make that food. The chefs, they cook, and then somebody else in the back brings out a completed dish. Like, that's how most of my shows are for Tastemade and Disney. Like, those are pre-made items with professional chefs in the back who make it, and your job is to be talent. My job is to smile and look pretty and talk to the kids, and, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's my job, isn't to cook. With somewhere like Bed Bath Beyond, it's the true hustler's way. Like, you have no margin for error, because you have to show up every day and your food has to be delicious because you're serving it, and you have to perform for a camera. And so in food and in content, I was thrown into the fire and was like, all right, like we just gonna figure it out. Why not? I ain't got nothing else to do. I ain't got no job. And so I that was the first one. Bed Bath Beyond, I did that for 3.5 years. And when I first negotiated with them, like my rate, I went way high. So I went this about and then they were like, well, look, we can give you this amount. And I negotiated, I would like to own all of the content. And so here I am, I get paid to come to a place once a week, shoot content, and I get paid pretty well. And I get to own the content that somebody else shot high quality and edited for me. And so all I did was take that and put it on a YouTube channel, put it on Facebook, Instagram. And a friend of mine who works as a videographer who used to work with me in advertising reached out to me like, hey, Tastemade is looking for new chefs. Can we send them your content? And so I just sent them the stuff from Bed Bath Beyond, and then the rest is history. And so after that, they brought me out to LA. We shot like 12 recipe cards, which is just like what you see on Food Network when somebody stands in front of the camera and they show you how to make a recipe. And I was just myself because I practiced for 3 years already with Bed Bath Beyond. And I just imagined instead of a camera and 3 cameras and cameramen, I just imagined people in front of me and I just had a conversation with the camera. And so I was able to do that just because I had practice from Bed Bath Beyond. And then beyond that, Tastemade, I just kept being myself. Like that was it. Like I controlled what I can control throughout each scenario. With food, I controlled everything about it and building a brand. With content, I controlled just being myself, like presenting something different so that when you see me on camera, you're not seeing somebody else. That's the problem with food, in my opinion. Like you keep seeing the same people do the same exact thing with the same voice and the same mannerisms, and they all say ricotta cheese or you know what I mean, Parmigiano Reggiano. You know what I mean? Like that's no. Like if you just go on camera and you be yourself, you know what I mean? Like that's what makes you different. And I leaned into being myself just because as we go back, I'm confident, man. So I was confident in being myself. And because of that, people are attracted to it. Bed Bath Beyond, I mean, Tastemade, Disney, all of them attracted to it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, being yourself is one of the biggest, forces for attracting the things that are meant to be in your life. So I think that's amazing. I want to actually pivot real quick. So as you know, we actually got a lot of advanced questions before today's session. I'm going to combine 2 of them because they're kind of both related to the same topic of kind of making career changes later in life and age. So the first question that we got was something that was, did you find it difficult switching industries at an older age, being a little less experienced than others in your industry? What specific challenges did you face and how did you overcome them? And then the second question, which I think is really eye-opening, is kind of this topic about ageism. And it's really real in society. And Time Magazine did a story about it. And when they apply for, this person who asked this question applies for work, trying to reimagine themselves, they don't get interviews despite having all the qualifications. So how can they get employers to give them a chance as a young senior?
The first question is interesting because I think ignorance is good in some ways. Like when I came into food and entrepreneurship, I didn't have any experience in either one. And so for me, it was just like, you get to make it up as you go along, which is the fun part. Like I enjoy that piece of it. And so with that, it was just like it's a bunch of Googling, it's a bunch of trial and error. It's a bunch of you just gotta mess up. You gotta keep messing up because then that becomes success. Like if you just keep messing up, eventually you'll figure out how to not mess up because your mess ups, especially in an industry where you have a product that you have to pay for, is only but so many times before you run out of money. And so You have to figure that out as you go along. And I would say that was the beauty in it for me, because now, like, I don't have a regular food business. Like,
Mhm.
it's not a regular food business. It's not based on this template of what others have done. And that was my idea of entrepreneurism. Like, my idea of entrepreneurism is to be able to do what I want when I want to do it. That is my goal. That's not my mission, but that's my goal. My goal is to be able to do that. And so with that, the ignorance was key to it, because I didn't want to be like a restaurant. Like, I've heard every single restaurateur tell me this is a hard industry, and I get
Mhm.
it. And now I understand for myself why it's hard. But in listening to those people, I don't have the same hardships they have, because I went about it in a different way. Right. So with food, and I'll go into the details of how I run it, and hopefully this helps somebody. But with food, overhead is what kills you. And so if you rent a space and you outfit it and you say, you know what, I want that new oven. You put all of this money into something that you don't even know will work yet before you even got a product, or you got a product and you want to just, I want a restaurant. Don't work like that. You know what I mean? Like, people who have restaurants, those are the ones who, if you speak to and you talk to them and you get that wisdom from them, they'll tell you exactly what the issues are with restaurants. And once you get that data, then you could say, like, okay, like, I still want a restaurant, or how can I work around their problem so then I could design my idea of it. And so what I did
Mhm.
is I got a shared kitchen space, which I still use to this day, a commercial kitchen space that you rent monthly, and you rent by the shelf. And so based on how much volume you do that month, you just rent more or less space. And so for me, during the quarantine, my rent a month was $75, opposed to if I would have did the same thing that everybody else who told me not to do it did, because a restaurant is the way to be in food, I would have been paying $3,000-4,000 a month during the quarantine. But instead, I'm paying
Mhm.
$75 because I knew their problems before when they told me their problems, I listened to them and I worked around it. And so we work in that. We operate in a catering space, because catering is guaranteed money, and you don't have much waste, because now you know exactly how much food you have to make. And then around that, like, when you do have leftovers, we donate all of our leftovers to the shelter around the corner. And so everything, like, I was able to figure out my system. Like, I figured out how to systemize my food, and that helped me come into a space that was unknown, because I listened to people in the industry. I I just tried a few things and figured out what worked for me. And then I was able to create a business that was unlike something else that I've seen in the industry, because it was truly authentic to me. Now, when it comes to ageism is, I think, is based on, a lot of it is based on confidence. Like, I think that in advertising, it's a cool industry because we were able to see older people and younger people all in one space. Like, advertising is super weird, because you'll have people who just come out of college sitting in
Mhm.
meetings with 50, 60-year olds who are dressed like them. Like, it's weird, but in advertising, if you come into a advertising office, it's a super weird, super quirky, like, everybody's themselves type of space. And when you see the older people in advertising, they present themselves with their clothing, with their swagger, and all of these things before you even meet them. But I would
Mhm.
say the key to their success is staying relevant with the industry that they're in, and then um, leading with their wisdom. Like, it's not my job, as if I'm an older individual, my job isn't um, to necessarily have to relate to you, but my job
Mhm.
is to offer something that you don't have. And with I think with age comes wisdom, and I think wisdom is the most important thing of all. Like, is more important than knowledge. I'm an entrepreneur who learned how to run a business off of YouTube, Google, and just doing it. You know what I mean? So, like,
Mhm.
knowledge is there. You can seek knowledge, but wisdom is learned through experience. And that's the key to an older individual. Like, you have so much experience, and now you have to figure out how to present it to your audience. And advertising specifically, like it's weird, but it was just the confidence. Like you seen it in their clothing. Like they walked into a meeting, it was like, all right, it's time to shut up because so and so is in here. You know what I mean? Like, and it might not even be the case, because some people may not have the best things to say, but they presented themselves in a way that I felt as though I needed to respect them. And then with that age also came that respect, because I was like, you know what? It's time to listen to these people because they've done some things that I haven't done. And so I would say lead with that. Like that's the confidence piece of it.
Yeah.
Know what you bring to the table. Know that your experience is more valuable than their knowledge, and then you just do your research and come into their confidence. That's my biggest advice. Wisdom. You got it. Now you just got to figure out how to present it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, wisdom and confidence seems to be really your key kind of pillar as an individual, which I think goes so far, just having that confidence to say the things that you want to ask for and go for it. So one real quick question, and then I'm actually going to pass it over to Marcus, who will kind of take you through some of the questions that have been coming up in the chat. But, you know, with the DLE and with just kind of COVID, all of this programming has come to life virtually because of COVID-19. How has the pandemic kind of transformed your business? What things have you had to change? And how has it affected like marketing and networking?
You know, it's wild. I'm in a really cool position because I am very agile. Like I operate as a single man show for the most part, and then I'll hire jobs. Like all of our catering, I would hire to help me serve or deliver or whatever. And then they go back to their lives and I go back to my life. And so when the pandemic hit, it hurt because I'm not able to employ my people anymore. Like that's the thing that hurts me. But it allowed me time to actually sit down and go. Like I literally just thought. Like I ride my bike a lot, and while I'm on the bike, I'll just think like, what am I good at? Like, what do I have to offer? What's different about me? You know what I mean? Like, I'm constantly thinking about that. What is different about me that is appealing? And so I remember New Year's Eve, this past New Year's Eve, we were with friends up in we were in the Poconos. We rented a house in Poconos, and we were all just talking. And I was like, my goal this year is to focus more on content because the food is there. Like the food, our recipes are solid. Literally, if I took 2 weeks right now and I sat down with somebody and explained to them how to make all of the food, how the delivery mechanism works, I could hand this business over in 2 weeks and be good with it. Just pay my people and I'm good with it. I'm fine with that. And with content, I saw the bigger opportunity because by now, like I said, like you said, I've done Disney, I've done Tastemade, Bed Bath Beyond, and now I'm getting paid for all of this content. And so I said, content is my key because that's just an exchange of time. Like now I'm not exchanging a product for money that costs me money to make. I'm exchanging time for money. How do I do more of that? And so when the pandemic hit, I was still doing the rat race. By March, beginning of March this year, right before COVID hit, Black History Month was February. And Black History Month was every single day of February. I had either 1, 2, or 3 caterings. And like I said, as a single man show operating out of a shared kitchen, there's always is room to bend, but you can't really do it the way you want, the way like it's currently set up, right? And so I was struggling, man. And we performed really well, but I was struggling in the sense that I was just tired. Like I was so tired after February that I lost the I went off the rails of what I said that I would do in December. And so the COVID allowed me to stop and think about what I said I would do and hold myself accountable to what I said I would do. And so COVID was a blessing because I would say the second week in quarantine, I'm sitting in my apartment and I'm just sitting there. My fiance works at Twitter, so she's good for life. They can work from home for life now. And I'm like, there has to be something in this old content. I literally have hundreds of videos that I've shot with Bed Bath Beyond. I'm like, there has to be something. There has to be a way I could cut this so that we could make a show out of it. And she's like, why don't you just make your own show? And so I was like, oh, that's a good idea. And so literally right there, I'm sitting in the room with some shorts on and no shirt. We go in the kitchen and we just film an episode of a showdown that I have on Instagram TV. It's called Cooking with Uncle Rel. And we just filmed it. And I edited the first one and it was cool. Watched it. Then that next week, not even that next week, I think that next day, we did 2 videos in a row. That next day, shot another one, edited it, and people on Instagram were loving it. Like they were sharing it. They were hitting me up about comments like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You should do more. You should do this recipe. So I'm like, oh, just like the meatballs, after winning that competition, there's interest in me creating my own content with the iPhone in my kitchen, in my drawers. so after a while, I kept doing it. And weekly, I would put out this show, and each time it would just get better because now it became more of me. Like after this, you guys got to check it out. It's Cooking with Uncle Rel, Instagram TV. I'll send you the link, Linda. And it that allowed me to get exposure, right? And so now people started reaching out to me to do videos for their, oh, so and so is having a party. Do you mind doing a cooking class for our company party? We'll pay you X amount. Or it's the Caribbean festival was supposed to happen this year, but now we're having to move it digital. Can we use you to can we create a video with you for this food thing that we're doing online that we're sharing with X amount of people? And from that, once you start to do something and people start to see you do it, now you become top of mind when they think of somebody who they need in that space. And so if it's catering, they know that I'm a caterer from my content because I'm always pushing my catering and my content. And so now in New York City, specifically amongst my people, my core group of people who follow me or who know me, I'm top of mind when it comes to catering. And from the content that you see and seeing me on TV, I'm also top of mind when you think of content. And so by doing both of those things, by focusing on both of those things, specifically content, by getting the message out that no, I can cook and I do content and I'm different than the people you see, now I'll become top of mind in 3 different areas. And that was the key to me, like being able to sit back and work on just producing things that people could see so that now when they think about things that they need, I become top of mind. That was my goal. That was my biggest goal, to become top of mind when people think about food and they think about content. And it's starting to happen. And then along the way, like it's so wild because it's nothing but faith. Like it's faith in God. And I'll say, like, with me, I'm the child of pastors. And so I grew up Baptist in a Baptist church. I would go to church on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. most Sundays, Bible school on Wednesdays, and then Fridays I was on the praise team. And so we, you know what I mean, we practiced praise team forever. And I will say throughout my life, we went to church so much. And the one message that stuck with me from church, and I don't think you have to be Christian to receive this message, but there is a story in the Bible where Jesus and Peter and the disciples are on the boat, and Jesus begins to walk on water. And when he walks on water, Peter, like, how can I do this? Peter gets on the water and he begins to walk on the water until he looks down and he sinks. And so to me, that story is super powerful because I think that if you're a Christian, whatever you are, like whoever your person or your deity is that you follow and that you try to emulate through your actions and your words or whatever, how you move, with a story like that, it proves to me that I'm capable of anything if I just have faith. Like faith was the thing that made him sink. And so I know that with me, if I have faith and I just focus on what I'm supposed to focus on, and I don't look down at that water, I will never sink. And that piece of the Bible, I carry with me all the time, just because I always have it in the back of my mind, like, yo, you are capable of walking on water. If you focus on what you're supposed to focus on, you keep your eye on where you're supposed to go, you are capable of walking on water. You know what I mean? And that's me, man. Like, that is me as a person.
Amazing. Oh my God, that's amazing. You know, sitting here, I'm like, I think we need to have a cooking class and a baking class by you and Dana. We need to find a mixologist to get the cocktail round going, and then we'll be having the best dinner party as a DLE community. But
Yeah,
I'm gonna
man,
pass over to Marcus, and he's gonna just go through a few
restaurant going in this chat.
Derrell, thank you again for your time this morning.
I'm down with it.
Jesse, also thank you for your moderating and I'm asking the questions. So it is 7:44, and I know I'm just going to be conscious of people's time. We do have a group of people that stay after 8 a.m. So if your schedule permits, please stay on. You'll get more time to ask Derrell questions if he's able to stay on, and we can continue this conversation around career pivot. Now I want to transition over to questions that I fielded from the chat. And the first question that I have is from Eileen Marcus. And Eileen Marcus is the next presenter at our July 29th workshop. She's the founder of Align Workspace. She has more than 30 years of experience in executive positions at a multi-million dollar organization. Her work has been featured in Glamour, Fast Company, HuffPost, to name just a few media outlets. Her question from the chat to you, Derrell, because obviously you're doing so much in 24 hours in a day. Who is your support team, and how do you use them?
My fiance. Oh my goodness, my fiance is my she's the shit. She is cool. She's everything. And I mean, that's why I reached out. Like, that's why she was the second person I called. Like, my mom, I had to get, I don't know, it's respect. I had to call my mom first because that's my mom. I mean, but like, I saved my last call for her because being an entrepreneurship is just as much on, or being an entrepreneur is just as much on her as it is on me. Like, my fiance has to go through these sacrifices with me. You know what I mean? Like, if I were to be in corporate by now, I would easily be making over $150,000 a year. Like, doing, probably have a home somewhere. Like, we would be on vacations. We would be doing all of these things. But being an entrepreneur, she might be able to do all of these things, but me personally, I'm like, yo, I can't go on this trip. Like, my money's tied up here. Or, yo, Black History Month, even though we're catering every day, I have to be able to pay for food for 2 weeks. I have to be able to pay for staff for 2 weeks. I got to be able to travel to these places for 2 weeks and not make any money. And then once I do make money, I have to recycle it, pay all of my bills, and then buy more food for the remainder of the 2 weeks. And so when you think of something like that, my fiance has to be right next to me in all of this. Even if she's not in my same position, she has to be next to me, because now she's my support. Like, all right, your money low? Bet I got groceries this month. You have to, you got to be here. Cool. I'll book a trip and we'll go to LA together. So I'm there with you. And so my fiance, man, she's there when I got to do content. My lady's next to me. My lady films the content in my kitchen. Thank God I've never missed like a day of rent or anything. You know what I mean? But like, we always have those discussions. Like, we have real discussions where we sit down, like, all right, what's it looking like? What's this month looking like? What's the finances? You know what I mean? Like, and so my fiance is my number one support. And then outside of that, the people in the business, you have to have, it's wild because like I'll base my business on like literature and like super weird things. Like I read The Godfather. If you've ever, so I listened to The Godfather on audiobook while I cook, right? And I remember reading The Godfather, and there's a position in the mob called consigliere or something like that, right? And so this is like your right hand, like this is your right hand person. And I would say for most businesses to function, you got to have a right hand person who's like, um, yo, when things hit the fan, it's like, yo, I need you. I call you up and I need you to do this for me, and vice versa. And that person is always there. And so I have one consigliere, if that's how you say it. I don't know how to say it like the Italians say it, but look it up, consigliere. And then yeah, like my other pieces of the mob, man, I have some really dedicated people. And with me, one of the pillars of my company is to hire, like we hire Black and Dominican people. That's it. Like all of my people, Black Dominican, and they are for me. Like they believe in my mission just as much as I believe in it. Like if I'm not there, they probably talk about my business more than I talk about my business. And those are the people that I bought on. It would be like my like disciples. Like you got to think of people like that. You got to think of people who are just as much. I mean, nobody will ever be as committed as you are, but if you can find somebody who loves your business on the same level as you love your business, and they prove it by the way that they work in it, by the way that they greet customers, by the way that they emulate you, and the way that you present your IP to other people. Those are the people that you keep. And I'm extremely blessed to be surrounded by a good 2 to 3 of those people who then are able to bring on, if I have to hire somebody else, I bring those people because they act as me. You know what I mean? In those situations, and then they're able to be an extension of myself. And so yeah, man, you got to find a consigliere and read The Godfather because that's what it is, man. You need that person, that consigliere. Oh my gosh, so important. That's the one person you should have. One person who's like a Swiss Army knife, and you tell them like, yo, I need people. Bet I got 3 people. I'll text them to you right now. Or yo, I need somebody to go to the grocery store. Bet I know somebody with a car. I'll send them out right now. You know what I mean? Like those are the people you need who could just at the drop of a dime, they got your back,
That, that's awesome to hear. Linda, the founder of the Dulye Leadership Experience, she's Italian. Her husband Roger is Italian. They they love
Yeah.
they love all the meatballs that you make. And my brother, he's big into the mob. So hearing that analogy is so hilarious.
Yeah, man.
Another
Consigliere.
question, another question that we have, since you are focusing on creating content, um, are you thinking about creating a cookbook in the near future?
Oh yeah. I read a lot of old English, and so I truly enjoy writing. Like I think that when it's all said and done, I'll be a writer, like an author. That'll be in my portfolio of endeavors that I've done in my life. But I've written these, what is it now? It's 3 stories. So these 3 like audiobook style stories. And I want to put out a sci-fi cookbook, like based on my life as an entrepreneur. And I'll probably put the stories up on a blog soon. So I'll share that with you as well so you can share it around. But eventually I want to have a cookbook. But right now that's not my focus, just because um a cookbook can happen 2 ways. Like I could dedicate a lot of time into the cookbook. I could market it the right way. I could do sittings, put it on Amazon. I could do all of those things. But for me, I think that content is the key, because content allows me to um, be in a virtual space, similar to my restaurant. Like Amazeballs lives in this virtual space, right? Which allows me to reach different people in different places. And so if I'm able to uh, push content and reach a bunch of people in different places, then that makes my cookbook, once it comes out, I can sell it to more people in my mind, like with less work. Like my brand is already established that strong that I could sell a cookbook to somebody with less work. And so to me, I'm like, you know what? I'd rather focus my time and energy on gaining eyeballs before I focus my time and energy on making a cookbook, because anything that I do, like I'm 100% focused on. I'm laser, like this. Like if you talk to my fiance, she'll talk to me, and I'm deep inside of my soul thinking of like what I'm supposed to be doing next, and I don't even listen to her. And so any project that I attack, I have that same mentality. So cookbook is definitely down the line. It'll be very different than other things you see. The woman I talked to earlier who talked about storytelling being at the forefront, that's the same with me. Like I'm key storyteller. Like I think that stories are the thing that attract me to content. Like this ability to tell a story in a short amount of time. That's my passion. And so once we do put out a cookbook, it'll be a few years from now, probably it'll be different. And I'll be a celebrity, hopefully, by then, like doing some content somewhere else. So now my job just becomes like, yo, I made a cookbook, and everybody's like, I gotta have it. Opposed to be like, I made a cookbook, now I gotta go promote it everywhere. So it's coming.
Well, Derrell, once again, thank you for your time this morning. Joining us for the Breakfast Club. This was truly an enjoyable, inspirational, and informative segment this morning around career pivot, as well as using your passion using your passion to create a business. Before people hop off, one, if you didn't take the time, fill out take the 10-second poll. It's really short. It's probably less than 10 seconds. Also, Derrell Smith, he does have a website, 99 Eat. All you have to do is Google 99 Eat. It's the first thing that pops up. Lastly, he did mention .co, 99eats.co. Also, he mentioned that he has his Instagram TV. His Instagram name is Relly Crocker, RELLYCROCKER. Before 8 a.m., I do want to pass it along to Linda Dulye, the creator of the Dulye Leadership Experience, which has over 600 alumni and community members. Linda?
So watching everyone lean in, I didn't put it in just view the speaker. I wanted to watch everyone. And you are a storyteller first who just happens to be a great chef, because
I appreciate that.
everybody was leaning in, and just you had a spellbound, Derrell. So first I want to say, for a week that started really dismal because we had to announce the postponement of our 13th annual retreat this week, you have been a ray of sunshine on a very cloudy, rainy day.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I have pages of Derrell notes.
Oh,
You are
wow.
amazing, pages. Okay, so
I appreciate it.
here's my 10 key takeaways for everyone. So number one, what's your meatball competition? And that means what's your springboard to get out of your comfort zone? He had a meatball competition. Two is, what's your mission? And you got to start with the why, but it's not about you. It's not about you. And number three, you got to lean into being yourself, that genuine authenticity. And I knew it in the first second that I heard your voice. By the way, networking story, Derrell and I met on it was a Syracuse University related phone call. It was a Zoom call. I followed up in a LinkedIn message to him, told him about the DLE, told him about the Breakfast Club, said, could I get a phone call with you? I think you'd be great. Had a phone call, roped them in, locked and loaded.
Absolutely.
And it all started with just reaching out and, just being genuine, saying, we got this platform and I think you can inspire our community. And you just knew it. And your inspiration comes from your authenticity. Next one, you have to mess up to move forward. I love your comments about messing up, and failure is going to happen. And the fear that we see in so many young professionals about this fear of talking about failure or admitting failure, it all happens. And yet the thing is, you got to mess up to move forward. Number 5, I'm loving this one because I have a daunting birthday coming up, but with age comes wisdom. Yeah, okay. I'm just going to put that everywhere out there for me. Wisdom, it's all about the wisdom. 6 is agility matters, and our dry run with you made me really think about, having the trappings of space, rental space. We have a big apartment. We don't have people coming into our DLE office anymore because of COVID. What do we need to keep vibrant a community? And you got to unlock yourself from that space and look at what else it is, because we've all had to pivot from that. So being agile is really, really, really important these days. My 7 one. Pants will forever be optional. Yep, pants. Pants will forever be optional, but faith will not, and faith is not optional. My 9th one is you need a consigliere. You do need one. Who is it? So you got to have faith, and if you haven't watched The Godfather, obviously this is mandatory viewing as of now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the last one is, who's your support? And Derrell, I'd like to say you now have a whole new community of support right here. So you want to test market your sci-fi cookbook or anything, you've got a community right here built in, and that's our gift. I want to thank you so much for inspiring us. I texted him last night at I don't know, it was 10:50, and I said, can't wait for tomorrow. Inspire, and inspire you did. So thank you, Derrell.
Thank you.
Whoa,
I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it.
Please complete the poll. Marcus, you've put the poll, or Jesse, you got the poll out there. Please give us feedback, because I do want to share your feedback with Derrell. What your key takeaway was, some of the career pivot challenges you're currently facing. I want to share that with him as well. Marcus, want to close this out?
Thank you, everyone, for joining us at 7 a.m. Like in our tradition, we like to start on time and finish exactly on time as well. It is 8 a.m. Like I mentioned earlier, we do have a group of individuals that will stay on after 8 a.m. So if your schedule permits, please join us. We will continue to talk around career pivots or other things that's a current event. Lastly, please check out our website, dle.dulye.com. We have our proprietary newsletter. It's the hub. Get information on upcoming events and also information on DLE alumni that are doing great things in their own professional field. Our next event that we have coming up is July 29th, 5:15 p.m. with Eileen Marcus. Like I mentioned earlier, she has her own she had her own company, worked in a multi-million-dollar organization. It's going to be an unbelievable event. The focus of this event is working or managing annoying bosses. I've only been in the industry for 4 years. I think we all have experiences of having a boss that has a different personality than yourself and how hard it makes getting work done. This is a great workshop. I say do not miss it. You can register for that workshop on dle.dulye.com. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great weekend, and dominate Friday for your work day.
Thanks, Dad.